In the vast emptiness of space aboard the diplomatic vessel Horizon, Seok-Wan Park stood perfectly still. His hands were clasped behind his back, a habit from years of military training. The ship's observation deck stretched before him, a panoramic window revealing the distant planet of Coral 3, where an important diplomatic meeting would soon take place. The planet looked like a swirling marble of deep blue and silver, its atmosphere creating delicate patterns that danced against the black backdrop of space. Seok-Wan knew this mission was different. Earth's first true interstellar diplomatic engagement with the Corellian civilization was about to begin, and he had been selected as the primary representative. His team consisted of 3 other specialists: a linguist, a cultural expert, and a technical advisor. But Seok-Wan was the negotiator, the one who would face the royal court directly. His reputation preceded him, a former military strategist who had transitioned into diplomatic service, known for his calm demeanor and unexpected problem-solving skills. As the ship descended through Coral 3's atmosphere, the smooth metallic hull cut through layers of silvery clouds. The landing was precise, almost mechanical, reflecting Seok-Wan's meticulous nature. Outside the ship, strange crystalline structures dotted the landscape, reflecting multiple colors under the planet's twin suns. The royal reception hall was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Walls that seemed to breathe and shift, surfaces that changed color with temperature and mood. At the center of this magnificent space stood Princess Ji-eun, her emerald-tinted skin a stark contrast to the pale metallic surroundings. She was not what Seok-Wan expected. Reports described her as a strategic mind, but seeing her in person revealed a complexity that documents could never capture. Her eyes, a deep amber color, seemed to analyze every minute detail of the human delegation. Protocol demanded a formal greeting. Seok-Wan stepped forward, his movements controlled and deliberate. He performed the traditional Corellian greeting, a series of precise hand movements that symbolized respect and peaceful intentions. Each gesture was a carefully practiced dance, learned through months of intensive cultural training. Princess. Ji-eun's reaction was subtle, a slight tilt of her head, a barely perceptible narrowing of her eyes. She was testing him, measuring his understanding of their complex social customs. The royal translator, a multi-limbed creature with translucent skin, began the initial introductions. But something was different. Seok-Wan noticed small inconsistencies in the translation, micro-expressions that suggested deeper meanings behind the words. His linguistic training kicked in. He realized the translator was not just converting language but also cultural nuances. Each sentence carried layers of meaning, diplomatic subtexts that required more than literal translation. Princess Ji-eun seemed to recognize his understanding. A hint of a smile played on her lips, not of amusement but of genuine interest. She spoke a phrase that was deliberately complex, watching Seok-Wan's reaction carefully. Without hesitation, Seok-Wan responded not just with words, but with a carefully constructed response that acknowledged the multiple interpretations of her statement. It was a linguistic chess move, demonstrating his comprehension of their intricate communication style. The royal court watched in silent observation. Humans were new to their galactic community, often seen as unpredictable and primitive. But Seok-Wan was proving to be something else entirely, a diplomat who understood that communication was more than just exchanging words. As the initial meeting progressed, tension in the room shifted. What started as a formal, almost dismissive reception was transforming into genuine curiosity. The Corellian officials exchanged glances, their multi-jointed fingers making subtle gestures that spoke volumes. Seok-Wan knew this was just the beginning. The real negotiations, the true test of diplomatic skill, were yet to come. But for now, he had successfully navigated the first critical moment of contact. The twin suns of Coral 3 cast long shadows across the reception hall, marking the start of what would become a pivotal moment in human interstellar relations. The royal court of Coral 3 buzzed with an electric tension. Seok-Wan Park stood at the center of a massive circular chamber, surrounded by intricate holographic displays and alien officials whose expressions revealed nothing. King Huan, a towering figure with skin like polished granite, announced the first challenge. His voice echoed through the chamber, each word carefully chosen to test the human diplomat. The challenge was deceptively simple: solve a complex diplomatic simulation that had historically stumped even the most advanced Corellian negotiators. A holographic landscape materialized around Xiaoquan. It depicted a multi-species conflict involving 3 different planetary systems, each with intricate cultural constraints and historical grudges. The scenario was a tangled web of potential diplomatic disasters, designed to expose weaknesses. In strategic thinking, most humans would have been overwhelmed. The information flow was massive: economic data, cultural nuances, historical conflicts, and potential future scenarios blended into a complex tapestry of potential outcomes. But Xiaoquan was different. His military background had trained him to process information rapidly. Where others saw chaos, he saw patterns. His eyes moved quickly, tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. Princess Jiun watched him closely, her initial skepticism slowly transforming into genuine curiosity. The challenge required not just understanding the conflict, but proposing a solution that would satisfy all parties without compromising any group's core values. It was a test of diplomatic creativity, cultural sensitivity, and strategic thinking. Xiaoquan began by organizing the information. He didn't rush. Instead, he methodically broke down each conflict's root cause, identifying the underlying motivations of each planetary system. His approach was systematic yet flexible, showing an adaptability that surprised the Corellian observers. Minutes passed. The royal court watched in near silence, their multi-jointed fingers making subtle gestures of communication. King Huan's expression remained stern, but a hint of interest flickered in his eyes. Suddenly, Xiaoquan spoke. His solution was unexpected. Instead of proposing a traditional diplomatic compromise, he suggested a collaborative economic model that would benefit all parties. It wasn't just a solution, it was a complete reimagining of their existing conflict. The holographic display shifted. His proposed framework demonstrated how each planetary system could gain economic advantages while maintaining their cultural integrity. It was elegant, simple, yet profoundly complex. Princess Jiun leaned forward, her amber eyes studied Xiaoquan with a new level of respect. The human had done more than solve a problem. He had demonstrated a unique approach to conflict resolution. The royal advisors began discussing the proposal in their native language, a complex series of clicks, gestures, and subtle vocal modulations. Their initial dismissiveness was replaced by genuine debate. King Huan raised a hand, silencing the chamber. "Explain your reasoning," he commanded Xiaoquan, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the room. Xiaoquan's explanation was clear and precise. He broke down his solution into logical steps, showing how human perspective could offer a fresh approach to long-standing interstellar conflicts. Each word was chosen carefully, demonstrating both respect for their systems and confidence in his approach. The first challenge was more than a test. It was a statement. Humans were not just another species to be categorized and dismissed. They were potential partners with unique perspectives that could reshape existing galactic dynamics. As the holographic display faded, a new understanding settled over the royal court. Xiaoquan had done more than complete a challenge. He had begun to change how the Corellians viewed humanity. Princess Jiun caught Xiaoquan's eye. For a brief moment, a subtle connection passed between them, a recognition of something beyond diplomatic protocols, something that hinted at possibilities neither of their civilizations had yet imagined. The trials began in a massive chamber that seemed to defy physical laws. Xiaoquan stood alone, surrounded by floating holographic interfaces and alien technology that pulsed with an otherworldly energy. The Corellian court watched from elevated platforms, their expressions a mix of anticipation and skepticism. The first test challenged human physical limits. A gravity manipulation field activated, creating an environment that shifted between extreme pressures, from near weightlessness to crushing force that would typically destroy organic matter. Where other species might have crumbled, Seokwan's military training kicked in. He moved methodically, each muscle carefully controlled. His body adapted, finding balance in the most extreme conditions. The royal observers exchanged surprised glances. Humans were supposed to be fragile, yet Seokwan demonstrated an unexpected resilience. Princess Ji-un leaned forward, her amber eyes tracking every movement. Something about the human was different. Not just physically strong, but mentally adaptive. He wasn't fighting the environment, he was becoming part of it. The second trial tested mental capabilities. A telepathic interface appeared, designed to break down cognitive barriers. Most species would collapse under the overwhelming flood of information. The test was created to be impossible, a deliberate challenge meant to expose weakness. Seokwan closed his eyes. Instead of resisting the mental assault, he began to organize the incoming data. Streams of information that would normally overwhelm a brain became a structured network. He wasn't just surviving the mental challenge, he was mastering it. King Huan's granite-like features showed a flicker of something unexpected. Respect, perhaps even a hint of concern. The human was proving to be more than just another diplomatic visitor. The third trial combined physical and mental challenges. A holographic battlefield materialized, presenting a complex scenario that required split-second decision-making. Strategic points shifted, enemy movements were unpredictable, and the environmental conditions changed rapidly. Seokwan's military background became evident. Where others might panic, he saw patterns. Each movement was calculated, each decision a carefully considered strategy. He wasn't just responding to the challenge, he was anticipating it. Princess Ji-un noticed something interesting. The human wasn't using brute force or aggression. His approach was almost philosophical, understanding the system, finding its weaknesses, creating solutions that minimized conflict. As the trials continued, the royal court's attitude began to shift. Whispers replaced their initial dismissiveness. The human was doing more than just completing challenges. He was redefining their understanding of potential. A final test emerged, a complex diplomatic simulation that combined physical endurance, mental calculation, and strategic thinking. It was designed to be a culmination of everything that came before, an ultimate challenge that would determine Seokwan's worthiness. The simulation was brutal. Environmental conditions changed rapidly. Communication channels were intentionally disrupted. Multiple species with conflicting interests had to be managed simultaneously. It was a scenario that would break most negotiators. Seokwan didn't just survive. He found a solution that not only resolved the conflict, but created a framework for future cooperation. His approach was so unexpected that it momentarily silenced the entire royal court. Princess Ji-un caught her father's eye. Something significant was happening. This human was more than a diplomat. He was a potential game-changer in their understanding of interstellar relations. As the final challenge concluded, a strange silence filled the chamber. The trials were complete, but something larger had just begun. Seokwan stood calm, slightly perspiring but completely composed. He had not just passed the tests, he had transformed them. King Huan's voice broke the silence. "Impressive," he said, a single word that carried the weight of a significant acknowledgement. The trials of endurance were more than a test. They were a first glimpse into humanity's potential, a potential that was far more complex and promising than anyone had previously imagined. Seokwan simply waited, knowing that the most important moments were yet to come. The final confrontation arrived with a tension that could be cut with a knife. Seokwan stood in the central chamber, surrounded by holographic displays that flickered with complex diplomatic scenarios. The royal court watched, their breath collectively held. King Huan had designed this final challenge as the ultimate test, a diplomatic scenario so intricate that it would require not just intelligence, but a complete reimagining of conflict resolution. The holographic display showed three warring planetary systems, each with deeply entrenched historical conflicts, economic complexities, and cultural misunderstandings. Most negotiators would have approached this as a traditional mediation. But Seok-wan saw something different. Where others saw barriers, he identified connections. His eyes moved rapidly, tracking multiple data streams, understanding the underlying motivations of each civilization. Princess Ji-eun watched closely. Her initial skepticism had transformed into genuine curiosity. The human was doing something unprecedented. He wasn't just solving a problem, he was redesigning the entire system of conflict. The scenario demanded an impossible solution. Each planetary system had non-negotiable demands that seemed mutually exclusive. Economic interests conflicted. Cultural pride prevented compromise. Historical grudges ran deep. Seok-wan began by breaking the traditional diplomatic approach. Instead of focusing on differences, he identified shared vulnerabilities. He mapped out economic interdependencies that the planetary systems hadn't even recognized in themselves. His strategy was elegant in its simplicity. He proposed a collaborative framework that didn't just resolve the current conflict, but created a new model of interstellar cooperation. It was more than a diplomatic solution. It was a fundamental reimagining of their relationship. The royal advisors began to murmur. Their multi-jointed fingers made complex gestures of communication, silent language that spoke volumes. Something significant was happening. King Huan's granite-like face showed the first real emotion they had seen, a mixture of surprise and growing respect. The human was revealing capabilities that challenged everything they understood about diplomatic negotiations. Seok-wan's presentation became a masterclass in strategic thinking. He demonstrated how each planetary system could gain more through cooperation than through continued conflict. Economic models were redesigned. Cultural exchange, protocols were proposed. A new framework of mutual understanding emerged. Princess Ji-eun found herself leaning forward. The human wasn't just solving a problem, he was creating a new possibility. His approach was so fundamentally different that it challenged their entire understanding of conflict resolution. The holographic displays began to shift. Seok-wan's proposed framework started to show potential outcomes: economic growth, reduced military tensions, cultural exchange programs. What seemed impossible moments ago now looked not just feasible, but inevitable. As he concluded his presentation, a profound silence filled the chamber. The royal court was processing something unprecedented. This human had done more than complete a diplomatic challenge. He had demonstrated a completely new approach to interstellar relations. King Huan stood slowly. His movement carried the weight of royal tradition and centuries of diplomatic experience. "Explain," he commanded, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the chamber. Seok-wan's explanation was calm and precise. He broke down his approach layer by layer, showing how human perspective could offer a fresh approach to long-standing conflicts. Each word was chosen carefully, demonstrating both respect for their systems and confidence in his approach. The confrontation was more than a test. It was a statement about human potential. Where other species saw barriers, humans saw opportunities. Where tradition suggested conflict, Seok-wan proposed collaboration. Princess Ji-eun caught Seok-wan's eye. Something passed between them, a recognition of potential, of possibilities that extended beyond their current understanding. As the presentation concluded, the royal court was transformed. The human had not just completed a challenge, he had fundamentally changed how they viewed diplomatic negotiations, interstellar relations, and the potential of a species they had previously dismissed. The confrontation was complete. But the real journey was just beginning. The royal chamber fell silent as Seok-wan approached the central platform. Centuries of Karelian tradition hung in the balance, waiting for a moment that would change everything. Princess Ji-eun stood beside her father, her emerald-tinted skin shimmering under the ceremonial lights. The royal court watched with a mixture of anticipation and disbelief. No human had ever reached this point in their diplomatic challenge. King Huan's granite-like features remained stoic, but something had changed. The trials, the diplomatic challenges, had revealed something unexpected about the human before them. Xiaoquan was no ordinary diplomat, no typical representative of Earth. The final ritual required more than just diplomatic skill. It demanded a complete demonstration of worthiness, a test that combined physical prowess, mental strength, and cultural understanding. Generations of Karelian tradition would be challenged in these next moments. Xiaoquan moved with a controlled grace that spoke of years of military training and diplomatic preparation. Each step was calculated, each gesture deliberate. He understood that this was more than a personal challenge. It was a moment that could reshape interstellar relations. The challenge began. Holographic displays materialized, creating a complex scenario that combined physical combat, diplomatic negotiation, and cultural understanding. It was designed to be impossible, a final test that no outsider could possibly complete. Princess Ji-un watched closely. Her initial skepticism had transformed into something else, a growing respect, an understanding that this human was different. Where others saw barriers, he saw opportunities. Where tradition suggested limits, he demonstrated potential. The first phase tested physical capabilities. Gravity fields shifted, creating an environment that would crush most organic beings. Xiaoquan adapted, his body moving with a fluidity that defied expected human limitations. He wasn't fighting the environment, he was becoming part of it. The second phase challenged mental resilience. Telepathic interfaces attempted to break down his cognitive barriers, flooding his mind with complex information designed to overwhelm. But Xiaoquan did something unexpected. Instead of resisting, he began to organize the information, creating patterns where others would see chaos. King Huan leaned forward, his expression changing. The human was doing more than completing a challenge. He was rewriting the very rules of their diplomatic engagement. The final phase combined everything. A complex negotiation that required split-second decisions, cultural understanding, and strategic thinking. Xiaoquan's approach was revolutionary. He didn't just solve the problem. He reimagined the entire system of conflict resolution. As the challenge concluded, a profound silence filled the chamber. The royal court struggled to process what they had witnessed. This human had done more than prove his worth. He had demonstrated a completely new approach to interstellar relations. According to Karelian tradition, Xiaoquan had not just completed the challenge, he had claimed something far more significant. By demonstrating capabilities that exceeded their most rigorous tests, he had effectively claimed a position of unprecedented respect. Princess Ji-un stepped forward. Her movement was both a diplomatic gesture and a personal acknowledgement. The connection between them was more than political. It was a recognition of something deeper, a potential for understanding that transcended species boundaries. King Huan spoke, his voice carrying the weight of royal tradition. "You have shown us something unexpected," he said, the words both a challenge and an acknowledgement. Xiaoquan's response was calm and respectful. He understood that this moment was about more than personal achievement. It was about opening a new chapter of understanding between their civilizations. The royal court began to shift. Whispers replaced silence. The human had done more than complete a challenge. He had transformed their understanding of what was possible. As the ceremony concluded, something fundamental had changed. The Karelian civilization would never be the same. Earth had revealed itself as more than just another species in the galactic community. Princess Ji-un caught Xiaoquan's eye. A subtle smile played on her lips, a promise of possibilities yet to be explored, of a future that neither of their civilizations had yet imagined. The claiming was complete. The transformation had just begun. The challenge was complete. But the real test was just beginning.